Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. In this video I want to talk about something that is close to my heart. I've been a fan of Doctor Who for probably at least 30 years, and it is something that I think is a total travesty to the concept of Doctor Who. Now, there's a new actor, basically going to be the 13th Doctor, called Jodie Whittaker, from Huddersfield in West Yorkshire. I actually work in Huddersfield, so obviously she's a local lass, and you know, I do want to say well done to her to get in such a high profile role. However, what I want to say is I think it's a bad idea to the storyline. I think it's a terrible idea. There seems to be a concept within the whole television and film industry where people are regurgitating existing ideas rather than developing new storylines. All you have to do is look at computer games, you know, look at Resident Evil and Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, where they take an idea for a game and turn it into a film because they can't come up with genuine ideas. The thing that really frustrates me is there are brilliant storylines out there, but because directors and TV producers are not willing to take a chance on that new concept to be a success, they won't even think about attempting it. Anyway, I want to go back to this concept of Doctor Who becoming a woman. Now, I'm not a sexist person. Don't get me wrong, and don't try and label me with that. And there's going to be a lot of haters that hate this video and call me a sexist pig. But I feel that this is a wrong, total wrong, bad, stupid idea that is going to alienate a lot of people. Now, Doctor Who has changed a lot in the last 30 years. I'm not going to deny that. Basically, it went through a period of being a serious drama where Doctor Who tried to thwart the plans of evil aliens, and it was serious, it was scary, bordering on being a horror in some instances, and it was the sort of thing that scared, you know, young kids, generally speaking, such as the Cybermen, the Daleks. They were basically something that had never been seen before, and then basically in the last probably 10 years it's become more of a children's light-hearted comedy type program, not a serious drama at all. I know why BBC have done this. Really, they're trying to basically draw more people in, basically to make more money. Basically, if you put your eggs in one basket, you get less money than you do if you put your eggs in many baskets. It's it's all about diversifying your product, so it basically appeals to many people rather than a niche or something like that. The problem with that is you alienate people who are your niche, who are your hardcore fans. So personally, I think Doctor Who has changed for the worse in the past 10 years, but many people who basically are children who recently got into it will probably enjoy it, you know, and that's not a bad thing. But people who remember Doctor Who when it originally came out in the 60s will be disappointed in its direction and how it's gone. But I want to talk about the actual role that Jodie's got, and I don't want to put it out there and say congratulations to her. She's a local lass who's got it. I work in Huddersfield, she's from Huddersfield, and you never know, you might see an episode with the castle in Huddersfield in an episode at some point. But my point I want to say is I don't think this is a good idea. It's always been a male character, always. And I don't think the interactions between the assistants and herself as the Doctor will work, because it's always been a female assistant and a male Doctor. Obviously, occasionally that you might see a male assistant pop into the program, but normally that didn't tend to work or last very long. I don't think a male assistant and female Doctor will work. I just don't think it will work. There's been many examples of this, in such as just imagine James Bond, who's a womanizer, was a woman. You know, it wouldn't work, because if James Bond was a woman, he would be considered a slag for basically sleeping with lots of men. But if a man does it, it's considered a stud, a game player, someone who, you know, is someone who can pick up women quite easily. But I'm not trying to be a sexist person here, but what I'm trying to point out is, I think for the whole concept of Doctor Who, in terms of how it works in its narrative of a story, defeating evil, let's talk about it from a perspective of violence, right? Such as computer games, such as fighting. Basically, fighting is the concept of being a man, being a male, an alpha male, someone who defends a woman, someone who fights with his fists, someone who shoots, kills. That's always been the role of a man and a male character. And although Doctor Who uses his mind to outwit his opponents and his enemies, there's always the possibility at some point he could pick up a ray gun and kill his enemies, basically, because he's male and he's got that capability of being a man. Let's look at Lara Croft. An idea for a computer game turned into a film. Angelina Jolie, basically a female character. Just imagine they decide to turn that on its head and that character becomes a man. I don't think that role works, and it wouldn't work. There's been many instances as well where the TV producers and film directors have decided to change the concept of, in terms of the whole concept of gender in that program, or film episode, program, film, movie, whatever you want to call it, and it doesn't work. The instance where Captain Janeway in Star Trek Voyager, personally I didn't agree with it. I didn't like the idea of a female captain, but it did work, and they made it work, and I think it's done quite well. However, can you imagine Captain Kirk or basically Captain Picard being a woman? Because I can't imagine it, because basically it's about being that dominant male, isn't it? The alpha male character, you know. If you look at a recent film called Ghostbusters, where the whole cast was women, the film flopped because no one wanted to see it, because it was a comedy film, right? But the whole cast was male, and everyone accepted that was their role. You know, fighting the ghosts. Obviously, we'll come back to this concept of fighting. It is a male thing, you know, so that's why that didn't quite work. I want to talk about Battlestar Galactica, the new series they brought out, where they changed the whole concept of Starbuck character. Basically, they're changing the whole narrative of how Starbuck interacted with Apollo completely, because Starbuck was a womanizer, just like James Bond, you know. Had lots of women, interacted, there was lots of banter between Apollo and Starbuck. But then they changed the character to a woman, and I thought, well, I don't want to watch that, because you're changing something. It's ingrained in society in terms of how it's made, how it's produced, and I really think that was a bad move. And I don't think Battlestar Galactica ever recovered after they made that decision. Obviously it gained a bit of success and they tried their hardest, but in general people want to know that something is constant and ain't going to change, so they enjoy the program, the storyline. It's all about the story, the beginning, the middle, the end, and they want to know the characters are set in stone and not changing. So I think, and obviously this has been on the radio all day long, where people are saying, using the James Bond analogy, basically, if James Bond was a woman, it just wouldn't work. And I think the same is true of Doctor Who. I just don't think the interaction between the new Doctor, Jodie, and the assistants will work. It won't gel. Personally, what I think will happen is the ratings will go dramatically down, and they'll kill her off and she'll change to a man again. That's what I think will happen. But I'm trying to give you examples of why I think a role that's mainly made to be played by a man shouldn't be changed to become a woman, basically. Now there's going to be a lot of haters that hate me for what I've said in this video, and feel free to say what you want about me, but I just want to make this point that Doctor Who for 50 years has been played by a male character who the main idea and concept is he's a man trying to defeat aliens for the good of mankind, right? Or if you want to be funny, people in general, because that's why they dropped that whole saying from Star Trek, because it was considered not politically correct. So they changed it where no one has gone before, rather than where no man has gone before. So, coming back to Doctor Who again, I don't think the story is going to work. I think the ratings will flop, because, Doctor Who has always been a male character, and, when I was at college, I looked into stereotyping, and where men are seen as the alpha male and women are seen as basically something to be obtained by men. And that's probably true in terms of our genes and our genetics, where obviously a man is always wanting to find a woman and look after her, and that's the way it's been for many thousands and thousands of years. When people think men only think about sex, well, it's in the genetics. You can't really blame a man for that. Anyway, I just want to say that I feel it's a bad idea that they change Doctor Who into a woman. Not because I'm sexist and don't think women have a role. I think she'd be fantastic in a Hollywood blockbuster film, maybe as the next Lara Croft or something like that, where I think it's a female role for a female. Great, fantastic. But I wouldn't think changing Arnold Schwarzenegger, Conan the Barbarian, into a woman, would that work? Not really. Again, it goes back to the alpha male persona and vision of fighting and violence. Let's have a look at UFC fighting. Yes, there is a division for women, but it's small in comparison to what the male division is. WWE wrestling, yes, they've got a diva division, but again, it's small in comparison to the male division. The same is true of boxing. Look at boxing. The whole thing is dominated by men. Football, look at football, dominated by men, because it's a sport. It's physical. It can be violent, and that's not something women want to do or pursue. There are some that do, And don't get me wrong, there's some fantastic women out there that do it. But I just wanted to put this video out there and just talk about why I think women can't always be 100% equal with men. You know, there's some jobs that women just physically can't do unless they're superhuman, you know, they're a bodybuilder or something. So just to wrap this up, I think she's got a fantastic opportunity, and I wish her all the luck in the world. I just feel that for the past 50 years a man has played this role, and it's always been a man. And I think in the end the BBC will realise that they made a bad decision here. And there's been many instances where this has happened. Obviously, I've mentioned Battlestar Galactica. I've mentioned the new Ghostbusters film. So, just wanted to wrap this up and say, Doctor Who hardcore fans, don't be too worried, because if it doesn't work out, they'll just change it back to what it was, and hope people don't remember the fact it flopped. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a nice day.